What's going on, everyone? It's Daniel from CoinSpots here, and we're going to be taking another look at Bitcoin today. What's going on? What's the price action, and kind of where do I see it going from here? In addition to that, we're going to be taking a look at an altcoin, specifically Icon, a nice little trading opportunity you can get in. And then we're going to be talking about some of the big news headlines such as Korea, some SEC regulation for ICOs coming in the United States. And then the last bit of news is something that's going to kind of put crypto in perspective because, with everyone, chasing the pumps and, looking for how much money they're going to make, this last article is that going to kind of put things into perspective and kind of lay out what stage of crypto we are really in right now. So yeah, um, looking at the 1 hour on Bitcoin right now, very short term time frame, and basically in the last video on Monday, I was basically talking about how we could potentially I always move the Fibonacci for some reason. That does kind of get annoying. All right. I thought it was only when you grab the lines that it moves. I could have sworn I was in between the lines. But anyways, um, on the video on Monday, I was talking about how we could potentially be forming a double bottom here, and basically, if that were to happen, that would be a very, very bullish sign for Bitcoin, right? Especially if we have a bullish divergence on the RSI. And basically, what that means is if the RSI does not go as low as it is here, so, well, you can't really see with these arrows if I can move it here. So if we bottom out um, on Bitcoin at the around the same level, 9,500, but the RSI does not dip as low as it did on this bottom. That's basically what you call a bullish divergence. That coupled with the double bottom would be a very, very good launch platform for Bitcoin. However, that's one scenario. Um, Taking a look at the charts right now, I'm basically looking at this resistance level right here, which was previous support, as you can see. The resistance level is just denoted by this red box here, which also correlates with the 0.618 fib. I did move the fib up to the 5,000 level on this dip. I previously had it on the 3,000 level from the dip back in September, but I moved it up a little bit. And basically, these two fibs correspond pretty much exactly with the support levels that I drew in these big red boxes. So short term, this 11,200 ish to $11,000 range is the support that, or the resistance, I should say, which was previous support that I'm going to be looking at. So, where obviously none of these levels are, exactly to the T, but as you can see here, we did pop up above this support all the way to 11,400, give or take. But now we've seen, some selling action coming back down. So you can definitely notice that there is some resistance at this level. So, just because, you're seeing a ton of these green candles coming up doesn't mean that, we're going to take off right now on Bitcoin. If it's confirmed that we pass this $11,000 level, that's going to be great. But then we're going to have to come here and tackle this 13K range, which has been support, right? We have, roughly what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of contact. So The 13K range was definitely a very strong support. We did break that, and we saw resistance here, which was previous support, and that's what led us back down here to the $10,000 range. So after we break, or if we break the $11,000 level, the 13,000 would be the next one to look at. And as I said, they do correspond with the 0.618 fib and the 0.5 fib. So those are going to be the two levels that I'm going to be watching if Bitcoin breaks. Obviously, it's not going to happen in a day. I think we're going to probably be around in this low $10,000 area for some time, a couple weeks maybe, unless some huge piece of news comes out that will swing the market either way. I wouldn't. So if we zoom out to the daily, I drew this bearish channel that we're still in, and for me, I wouldn't um, wouldn't say that there was a change in trend direction unless we break and hold the $15,000 level, I'd say, because we could still have some kind of a bull trap forming, even if this thing shoots up um, all the way to the $13,000 or $14,000 or just under $15,000 level, and then it could bounce off of this trend line and go back down. So until we um, break that $15,000 level, for me, that's when I'm going to start thinking about this kind of bearish trend being over for Bitcoin. But who knows? That's just my thoughts on it. Um, but yeah, I think as I said in the last video, the best thing to do, during this time is just hold. Don't really do anything. There's nothing you can do. Um, just start thinking about that. If we do kind of have that double bottom scenario, you could potentially buy in. Right, the $7,000 or $8,000 level for Bitcoin is not something that's totally like out of the blue, or something that's not feasible, I should say. $8,000 Bitcoin is possible. Not saying it's going to happen, but it is in the realm of possibility, right? Where if you tell me 4 or 5,000, I would be a little bit more hesitant to say that, yeah, Bitcoin could go down that low. I personally don't think that at the $7,000 or $8,000 level there is such a huge support there that I don't think buyers are going to let it go below that level. So yeah, just keep your eye on what Bitcoin does. Short term, just keep watching these two levels and see what's going on. So yeah, moving on to Icon. Close that up there. Yeah, I was taking a look at a potential buy opportunity for Icon if you miss this dip here. And oh yeah, even right here, look at that. We touched that this fib level, the 0.382 fib level, and almost touching this trend line here that I drew from these two peaks up here. And I was going to say that this was a good buy zone for Icon, and look at that. It's looking pretty good. Buyers are eating this up here. That's why you see this huge wick. So wouldn't say this is done yet, and we're going to the moon. But right here is definitely a potential buy zone for Icon, to see it, how this plays out. So if you weren't able to load up on some Icon on the dip here and on the 17th, this is definitely a potential buy opportunity for Icon. And Icon, for me, I'm in Icon, definitely has some really good long-term potential. All right, moving on to the news. So basically, South Korea, came out 4 hours ago. They released the guidelines that banks and exchanges had to follow. And basically, it's the same old, same old. You have to you couldn't use anonymous virtual bank accounts. So the way it works in Korea is you connect your virtual bank account to the exchange, and I guess um, you didn't have to use your real name or real verification to open up one of those virtual bank accounts in Korea, which is kind of surprising. But I don't really think that these regulation measures are anything crazy because we already have this in the United States. In order to open up a bank account, you need to provide, you know, your name, proof of address, social security, right? The whole nine yards. So the fact that they didn't have that in Korea is kind of surprising for me, but this is really just Korea getting on par with the rest of the world. Because definitely if you could open up a virtual bank account without some of that basic information and you could be anonymous, I that's definitely a problem for the government and or in the government's eyes, and um, it has to be remedied sooner or later because that's not going to fly pretty much under any government. But now since we're talking about regulation, um, regulation in this sense where governments want to be able to tax cryptocurrency and make money off of it, is a good thing, right? Because unlike China, which obviously banned everything, which is not the best approach to do, I think that now when regulation is kind of being solidified, and obviously in the United States, probably the SEC and IRS and all of those federal agencies are kind of you know tackling how to tackle this crypto thing really. Um, and since exchanges and banks are making a ton of money off of this, right? On Monday, I was saying how banks in South Korea were making like 20 or 30% more money than projected just through cryptocurrency alone. Um, Coinbase did like $1 billion in revenue last year, which overshot their expectations by like 60 some percent. So I think governments are starting to see that crypto is a legitimate like business model, with exchanges and with banks, that banning it is not really going to be something of interest because governments want to make more money. And when Coinbase is doing $1 billion per year in revenue, the government is going to want a part of that. And I remember last video, I also compared it to marijuana and how marijuana was taxed, right? Because whatever your stance is on marijuana, whether it's good or bad, it's going to provide a hell of a lot of money to governments. And as I said, all governments want to do is make more money. So regulation is going to be good because it's going to allow um, more of those institutional and big money investors to come into crypto because there's going to be some sort of regulatory framework, right? They're not just, putting their money out there in the Wild West, right? The government acknowledges that crypto is something here to stay. And when there are, when there is a financial framework around it, big investors are going to feel more comfortable to put money into it, right? And regulation as a whole is going to give um, governments control of what's going on in their country, and give them money for taxes. At the end of the day, everyone's going to be happy. Government's going to make more money. Crypto isn't going to be banned. Big money is going to come into crypto, and unfortunately, we're going to have to pay taxes on it. But that was inevitable. That was at the end of the day, everyone knew that that was going to happen. What is also interesting about the rise of regulation is that 2018 could be a big year for privacy coins, right? Because obviously privacy coins are going to be a counter to regulation, especially if you buy it off the exchange, which if someone really wants to be totally anonymous, they'll probably go to whatever lengths to be totally anonymous, right? Because the center point for crypto is going to be the banks and the exchanges, and that's really the only place you can track crypto, right? Obviously, yes, you can track Bitcoin and some of the other blockchains that have public ledgers, but it's going to be time consuming. And I don't think government is going to put that amount of time unless um, the money being, whether it's whatever illegal activity is going on is big enough, right? Just like the whole case with you're not totally anonymous online with a VPN, even if you're, using a Tor browser which bounces your VPN off of different servers, or bounces your IP, excuse me, bounces your IP amongst different servers, right? You can be tracked back. You just have to go to the servers, go to the server log, and trace back that IP address. But as I said, it takes resources to do that. Same thing with the blockchain. There is a public ledger, but if you really want to find out and trace back all those transactions, that's going to take a lot of money. And the end goal has to be really big if the government is going to do that. So regulation is going to be big in 2018. United States is most certainly going to come out with some kind of guidelines. So that's something to keep your eye on in the news. And also privacy coins are going to probably be big as a result of that. So Monero, Zcash, Navcoin are some of the big names in terms of privacy coins that I'm looking at. Now, apart from regulation in crypto as a whole, we have the SEC chairman basically giving his thoughts on ICOs. And before we get into this, an article came out that this Benebit ICO was pretty much a complete scam, and they ran off with, uh, you know, $3 to $4 million of investor funds the same day that the SEC chairman gave his speech about, shady ICOs. And it's crazy that that this happened. And what's interesting is that this project has been around for a year plus, and they had a good amount of Telegram or users on their Telegram channel and followers on Twitter. So this ICO wasn't necessarily out of the blue, and supposedly they did like close to $500,000 in $500,000 in terms of marketing, which is pretty crazy. So this was some really big elaborate scheme, um, with comparison to some of the other ICOs that come out. So this one did look legitimate, and a lot of the ICO websites gave this the green light and said that it was good. And basically the whole thing fell apart when someone found that these pictures for the team were basically taken from a school website in the United Kingdom, which is kind of crazy. But this just goes to show the huge risk that ICOs have, and you always have to be careful when putting money in ICOs, because this example perfectly. Everything looks legitimate, and you can't. Honestly, you probably could never have known that these guys were gonna run away with your money because, as I said, they've put money into marketing. They have a decent website. They have a lot of users in their or on their social media channels. Um, so, stuff like this is honestly really hard to detect. And on this note, the SEC chairman basically was talking about these ICOs that come out of the blue, and whether it's ICOs or just regular companies rebranding with some kind of crypto or blockchain in their name. Um, so he gave this example that this company known as Long Island Iced Tea Corp rebranded as Long Blockchain Corporation, and their stock shot up like crazy. So honestly, that is that's insane to think about. Um, we're at a stage where literally any kind of company that has blockchain or mentions crypto or something related to crypto is just going to shoot up like crazy. And regardless, like they could set up some kind of ICO saying that they're going to go to the blockchain and, just to get some quick cash. Um, and that is definitely going to get the eyes of the SEC, right? Because a lot of these ICOs are not complying with securities laws, and basically it's illegal for them to do a fundraiser, to do an ICO. That's why it's especially important to do your research on ICOs, because if the SEC shuts down that ICO, you're going to be the one holding the bag with the tokens that are worthless now. So, always take ICOs with a grain of salt. I personally um, don't invest in ICOs, with the exception of the new Telegram ICO that will be coming out in March. That one's got my attention simply because it's a verified business that's actually seeking to do something that I kind of believe in really. I'll probably discuss the Telegram ICO in another video. When it gets closer to their ICO date, which is somewhere in March. But this article definitely important because with everybody um, trying to chase pumps and make money really quickly, you know the SEC can come down tomorrow and just hammer on whatever project is not complying with securities laws, and if you bought into it, you're going to be holding that bag of tokens that are worthless. So definitely something to keep your eye on. Do your due diligence on ICO projects and kind of tokens in general. Um, and I think this is kind of going to segue into the topic for tomorrow's video, which is going to be decentralized exchanges and how this, as a whole, SEC regulation is going to give rise to decentralized exchanges, and how you could kind of capitalize on that opportunity. Um, so yeah, moving on to this last bit of news that I was mentioning, that's going to put crypto in perspective, and the title just sums it up perfectly. Everyone's talking about blockchains, but nobody's using them. And the best picture to summarize that is this one right here. This is from On-Chain FX. And basically it shows that at its peak, Ethereum is doing the most transactions in a day, close to 1 million. However, with Ethereum, you have to be a little skeptical because Ethereum is the biggest ICO platform, and a lot of those transactions are just Ether being exchanged for whatever ICO token there is. So, just by looking at these statistics, you can see that blockchains are hardly getting used at all. And it's kind of crazy at, based on these stats, what their market cap is, what their evaluation is, and just how much speculation is in the market. You know, with Bitcoin doing $10 billion. Is that 10 billion or 10 million? No, 10 billion, yeah. Yeah, $10 billion of transactions per day with a market cap of close to 200 billion. And same thing with Ethereum, 8 billion a day with a market cap of like 100, it's 100 billion right now. You know, so, this puts it into perspective that how early this technology is, and even though everything's overvalued, um, that's not necessarily a bad thing. This just goes to show, what stage we are in crypto, because everyone, talks about the bubble popping, this year or soon, but considering that no one's actually using these blockchains, um, and in the case of Ethereum, not using them for decentralized apps, because using the Ethereum to buy tokens for another blockchain that isn't going to be used shouldn't really count, in terms of, hey, Ethereum is being used, because no, it isn't, you know. Um, but this just goes to show how early we are in cryptocurrency and how much more room we have to grow, you know. And if you're in those really solid long-term projects, you're in it for 4 or 5 years, you're gonna make a hell of a lot of money. A hell of a lot of money. It's just choosing those projects that that are going to be there in the long term. You know, you can chase the pumps all you want now, and you know get on the whatever new coin is hyped. But at the end of the day, you need to be putting that money back into into the projects that or you think are going to be around in the long term. Ethereum, definitely one of them. My opinion, obviously. Neo, another one. Um, those protocol platforms. Um, but yeah, it's kind of crazy just looking at these statistics and and what the evaluation of the actual currency is. So, in my opinion, nothing to be scared about that. This whole thing is going to go boom anytime soon. You know, we're not using blockchains nearly at all. Um, so, once this stuff goes mainstream and there's multiple applications built on it and people are using the ecosystem, more merchants accept payments like Litecoin, Dash, obviously Bitcoin is being excluded because it's a store of value. At least that's what it's being perceived as now. But yeah, we've still got a long way to go, folks. Long way to go. So yep, gonna keep watching this Bitcoin level here, or this resistance level here. Definitely having some sell-off as we hit the resistance, but so it is. Stay safe out there in crypto land. If you're not trading, that's all right. Best thing to do is hold. Market's moving sideways and uncertain future, at least for the short term. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe. Trying to get on these videos every day. And hopefully I will see you tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then most definitely Friday.